Okay, we shall start. Hello, everyone, and welcome to our session today on mindfulness or mindful of things. I can definitely relate to the mindful of things part. Mindfulness has become a buzzword and it's used so much nowadays in all sorts of contexts. But what did the Buddha actually say about mindfulness, and how did he explain mindfulness? So today we're very lucky to have Venerable Olande Ananda Thera to speak with us. A bit about Venerable. So Venerable was born in Amsterdam and was ordained in Sri Lanka in 1975 before he received his high ordination in 1977. He was a resident teacher at Rock Hill International Meditation Center for 5 years, and since 1982, he is a Buddhist delegate to the Interreligious Living Dialogue held in Germany, Sri Lanka, India, Bali, Japan, Pakistan, and France. Covered most of the world. Venerable had also conducted meditation sessions in the Himalayas and held meditation seminars in Indonesia. And since 1977, he's been connected to the Pagoda Van Han Vietnamese temple in Holland, teaching meditation around Europe, and is a resident meditation teacher at Pagoda Meditation Center in Sri Lanka. And so if you have any questions throughout the talk, please pop it in the chat. Tina's not here today, so Soph and I will be facilitating and helping out. There will also be questions and question times at the end of the session. So you guys know the gist. Without further ado, I'll hand the mic to you, Venerable.
Well, you've got to have very long arms to hand the mic to me. We are, from Canberra to here. Sri Lanka is quite a long distance, but nowadays it goes in a jiffy, really. So, yes, I would also suggest to have a kind of a guided meditation at the beginning of our session, which lasts about, let's say, minimum 20 and maybe 25 minutes. Not too much talking, getting us into kind of both tranquility and also clarity of mind, hopefully. And then after the meditation, I will give a talk on the topic, mindfulness or a mind full of things. And I don't know exactly how long that's going to take. We have altogether 1.5 hours. So in the end, we could spend also like half an hour on questions and answers, in which you can ask anything, well, as long as it has something to do with the topic, let's say. And the only thing is that I cannot guarantee an answer to every question, but you can ask anything. So there we are. Did you unmute Metta in order to say something, or is that a mistake?
Sorry, no.
Right. So I would say, let us sit for meditation. Quietly, with the eyes gently closed or half open, as you prefer. The body straight, yet relaxed. Letting go of all the thoughts about past and future, and bringing your attention into the present moment. At first, by feeling your body sitting here now. The feet on the floor, feeling your legs, the touch of the body on the cushion or the chair. Feeling your hands and arms. Shoulders and neck. And your head. All the way till the very top of your head. Till you can feel those subtle sensations on the top of your head. And from top to toe and bottom to top, feeling your whole body sitting here now. And if you feel any tensions in the body, the muscles, or in your mind, let go of those tensions by relaxing body and mind. And once you really feel that you're sitting here now, let us then develop more metta, universal loving kindness for all beings, including yourself and starting from yourself by wishing from your heart, may I be free from anger and fear. May I be free from greed, hatred, and delusion. May I be free from conflict and suffering, dukkha. May I be well, peaceful, and happy. May I be well and happy. May all beings, near and far, be free from conflict and suffering. May all beings, human animal, the visible and invisible. Be well, peaceful, and happy. May all beings in all directions, above, below, in front of me, behind me, to my right, to my left, and all around, in all directions. Near and far. May all beings be well, peaceful, and happy. May all beings be well and happy. Satta bhavantu sukhitatta. And now that you're calm and quiet, if you like to focus on any chosen object, you could choose the breath, the sensation of the air inside your nostrils as a chosen object for your attention. It's a very subtle object, so you might want to take 2 or 3 deep breaths to become more aware of a clear object. And then return to the natural, normal breathing, knowing where it touches and what it feels like. In the meditation, you don't need to go anywhere to find what you're really looking for, especially if that is real peace of mind and happiness. You can't find it outside of yourself. It is already within you. Not by going anywhere, not by trying to become anything, but just by being, being, being. From time to time, different objects will probably come to your consciousness. Sounds through the ears, feelings in the body, thoughts in your mind. Never mind. Let these things come and let them go. Not to worry when thoughts are coming. That is the nature of the mind. It has been doing that for ages, and you cannot stop it all of a sudden. But you can stop reacting to it and just let the thoughts come and let them go without clinging to anything, without condemning anything. Without getting involved in anything. Being a neutral observer. With mindfulness, attention, and equanimity, even-mindedness. May all blessings come. Bhavatu Sabba Mangala. May the invisible helpers, devatas, protect us. Rakhantu Sabba Devata. By the power of all enlightened ones, Sabba Buddhanubhavi. By the power of all truth, Sabba Dhammanussati. By the power of the spiritual community, Sabba Sanghanussati. May the highest happiness, Paramang Sukham, the deepest peace, Paramashanti, the greatest security, Sada Sati, ever be yours. Bhavatu Sabba Mangalam, Rakhantu Sabba Devata, Sabba Buddhanubhavina, Sada Sati Bhavantu Te. Bhavatu Sabba Mangalam, Rakhantu Sabba Devata, Sabba Dhammanussati, Sada Sati Bhavantu Te. Bhavatu Sabba Mangalam, Rakhantu Sabba Devata, Sabba Sanghanussati, Sada Sati Bhavantu Te. Now, towards the end of this meditation, before opening your eyes, it's good to just feel your body once again sitting here. And then to gradually become aware of your surroundings, including the subtle sounds around you, near and far. And also the silence around you and the silence within you. And while relaxing body and mind, you can slowly, slowly open your eyes. So I hope that my voice did not put anybody to sleep. And also, I don't know whether after this first part, the guided meditation, one should have a break in the recording, or we just continue the recording, Alice?
We're just going to continue.
Okay.
Stuff. Yep.
Right. So then let me start my little talk about the topic. It's about, as you may know by now, mindfulness, or a mind full of things. And of course, since you live in an English-speaking country, you all know that, there is a big difference between mindfulness and a mind full of things. Probably most of us have a mind full of things, and maybe less mindfulness than one could wish for. So the thing is that the full of things bit of it is something that we have to live with, or maybe we can find ways that could get rid of the unnecessary things in our mind, that you really don't need. One thing that is maybe not exactly the Buddha's words, but they are like, in a sense, words of wisdom by J. Krishnamurti about, when you are thinking, it can be thoughts about the past or the future. And in the past, you may be thinking about, the things that are necessary, that you have to know, your knowledge about your topic, your subject, your job, or all kinds of things that you have to know. But there are also thoughts about the past which are based on psychological roots, like somebody may have scolded you, or maybe they have flattered you, and they may have told you things or done things to you, and you're thinking about that in the past, which is actually not there anymore, but you're bringing it into the present. Now, that kind of what is called psychological past, if we can see it and we can let go of it, is quite a relief of a burden from our unnecessary thoughts. Then we have more room, so to speak, for the necessary thoughts, which we do need in order to function. Similarly, about the future, if you want to do anything, even to go shopping, or you go on a trip, you have to do certain things that are necessary for that activity. And then you have to know what to do, and that is so important. But if you are thinking about the future with hope and fear, like you hope something will happen, but then you fear it might not happen, or you fear what people might think about you, what might happen. That kind of psychological projection into the future can lead to an unnecessary burden in your mind. Whereas if you then can center on the necessary thoughts for the future, which you also, of course, you do need. It's not that you should not have any thoughts in your mind, but the necessary thoughts are there. The unnecessary ones, which we call the psychological ones, if we can reduce those or even drop them, let go of them, then we have much more time to be actually aware in the present moment. That is one of the things about awareness and mindfulness. Actually, those are two words, and then you have the word attention. All these words are to do with mindfulness, meditation, living in the present, and things like that. So when the Buddha talks about mindfulness, he has a word in Pali language called Sati, mindfulness. Smrti is the Sanskrit word, Sati is the Pali word. but in English they usually translate it as mindfulness or awareness or attention and things like that. So in a certain sutra, the Buddha explained how to develop mindfulness. In the Satipatthana Sutta, the discourse on the development of Sati, he explains how to develop mindfulness on the four foundations being the body, the feelings, and the mind, and the mental objects, in short. So when we're thinking about the awareness of the body, it is meant to be aware of what you are basically doing. Are you sitting, or are you standing, or aware of lying down, or maybe walking, or bunga jumping, or something like that, or maybe a daily activity like cleaning or cooking and things like that. So awareness of what you are doing is basically the teaching about the mindfulness of body. One can also be aware of the body as is the body feeling heavy? Is it feeling light? Is it feeling cold, feeling warm, and things like that? One can also be aware of that. So the awareness of the body has different aspects. Then the mindfulness, of the feelings. Now, feelings in English, you have feelings and you have sensations. So the physical feelings would be the sensations in the body, pleasant or unpleasant or neutral physical sensations, which come because of the touch of objects with your body. And when it comes about feelings, it includes mental feelings or like emotions. So those are also included in feelings, but also in the mind, actually. But you can say it is pleasant or unpleasant or a neutral mental feeling. So these feelings in Pali language are called vedana. Vedana means feelings. So then when you have the third object, which is called the mind, to be aware of the mind, well, you can be aware of thinking, for instance. In your meditation also, you see how these thoughts are coming and going, how the mind is doing its own thing. And we, of course, have mindfulness also that is part of the mind itself. It's a factor in the mind which is aware of the contents of the mind. So this, what is called cittanussati, or the insight into, through the meditation, what we call mindfulness, you get an insight. That is why we also call this meditation Vipassana meditation. So Vipassana is insight into the characteristics of all these things: body, feelings, mind, and the characteristics of body and mind, basically. So when you are aware of these things, well, it is not in words, these talks and books and suttas and all that, they make use of words. But the word feeling is not the actual feeling. The word body is a description for the body, but the body is the body and the word is body, like that. So the word is not the thing. Yet another famous quote of J. Krishnamurti, who says that, all these words that we are have in our mind, And the words which are in the books, they are just descriptions, but they are not necessarily, and they are not really the thing itself. So we have to, what you call, realize the actual thing beyond the word. We only use the word, like, for instance, when you are, there's another thing, when you are practicing walking meditation, it's another form of meditation. You are aware of your feet going up, forward, down, up, forward, down, or lifting, forward, placing, lifting, forward, placing. So those words are not really the thing that is happening with your feet going up, forward, and down. But we're just using those words to come closer, maybe, as a description, a word for the real thing. But then, after some time in our meditation, we have to come to the real thing and drop the idea or the word, and just be aware of the actual movement, for instance, or the actual feeling, or whatever it may be. Then you are probably more aware of the actual thing. So sati, before that, let me just talk about the, what is called the mind objects, or the characteristics of existence. That is the fourth object in the Satipatthana, the four foundations of mindfulness. To be aware of the characteristics. What are they? Well, in traditional Buddhism, we say anicca, dukkha, anatta. That means changeability, unsatisfactoriness, and non-self. Those are the three major characteristics of everything that is under the sun. Everything is changing. Nothing is really satisfactory. Even the most happy moments have an end, let's put it that way. And then the other thing is that none of these things really are me, mine, myself, or belong to me. They are just what you call non-self, as it is called, anatta. So anicca, anicca, dukkha sometimes translated as suffering, but if you take the Buddha's teachings as suffering from birth to death, like being born is suffering, growing up is suffering, getting sick is suffering, being confronted with unpleasant things is suffering, being departed from pleasant things is suffering, and growing old and sick is suffering, and dying is also suffering. Well, in that case, you would think that the Buddha was a real pessimist. But I've never seen the Buddha with a long face, have you? Except maybe Thailand, the Buddha statues have a rather long face, but not a long face, what you call it. So you see him always peacefully smiling. So this dukkha, or what we call suffering, should be replaced by the word unsatisfactoriness. There's nothing in the world which is 100% satisfactory. So anyway, and then of course the non-self, the third of the three characteristics. Non-self is a little bit difficult maybe to understand. In some religions, for instance in Hinduism, they find that the self is the most, let's say, eternal and unchanging and everlasting thing that we can identify ourselves with. But the Buddha said there is something which is eternal and undying and unborn and unconditioned. That is nirvana, but that is not your soul or yourself. It's there, you can realize it, and that's the greatest peace and happiness, but it is not something that you can call me, mine, my own, myself, or my soul. So that is a difference. Anyway, these characteristics can be observed in the meditation. So in a way, we can say that mindfulness or sati leads to vipassana or insight. And insight leads to wisdom, and wisdom leads to liberation. Liberation of suffering and the round of rebirths, if you want, and samsara. Samsara being the round of birth, death, and rebirth. Now, there is a bit of what you call controversial, maybe, material here, which I also would like to mention. In Theravada Buddhism, the staunch, let's say, staunch Theravadins say that we should get out of this samsara ourselves, and we should try to get out of it as soon as possible by becoming an arahat. First stream enterer, then non-returner, once returner, non-returner, and then an arahat. Whereas in Mahayana Buddhism, and that includes also Tibetan Buddhism, Vajrayana, they believe that that is a kind of a selfish motivation to get out of this samsara just for yourself. And you say, well, I found the way out. Bye. You look at it, you look at yourself, wish you good luck. But the Mahayana would say, no, we should try to help others to find it. Even if you can find the way out of samsara, you choose to remain in this samsara, not because you like it so much, but because this is the way to be able to help others to find the way to real peace and happiness. So that is a kind of what they call a bodhisattva motivation. So I leave it to you whether you prefer one or the other. It's you have to really see at the end of the life, I suppose, from, oh, oops, I thought that, I could stay in samsara, but now I'm gone, or something like that. No. Anyway, so we have these mindfulness, filling the mind with words so far, and later on, hopefully, emptying the mind again from all these words. So now mindfulness has become what you call a multi-billion-dollar business. It has been popularized. It was not always recognized as coming from the Buddha, but as a way for becoming, overcoming stress, basically. So mindfulness stressed, mindfulness-based stress reduction therapy. That's the way it's called. And Dr. Kabat-Zinn, John Kabat-Zinn, was very successful in treating lots of people, not under the name of let's give you a Buddhist meditation course, but treating people from this stress problem and using mindfulness to do that. So these kind of lessons and courses and practices and, talks and conferences and retreats, all that kind of thing, have become very, very popular, you would say, in the world. But the only thing is they're very expensive. Whereas Satipatthana Bhavana, or meditation on mindfulness, is actually, should be free of charge. Buddha never asked for, money for it. But, it's something that I think making money, we all need to make a little bit of money, but to make big money on something that is actually simple in a way. It's not difficult. But anyway, now there's another person in the world famous for Vipassana, that is Goenka. S.N. Goenka, Satyanarayan Goenka, he was from Burma, but he moved back to India. His family was originally from India, and he had what you call a headache, or how do you call that? Terrible headache for a long time. He was a very successful businessman. Then somebody said, instead of going around the world, which he did, to find specialists to help him to get rid of this migraine, he said, why don't you get a 10-day course from Uba Khin in Rangoon in Burma, which he did. And after 10 days, his migraine was gone. He stayed for another year, 9 years with Uba Khin, and then Uba Khin said, now it's enough. You better go to India and start teaching to your family and friends. And it became very, very successful, all free of charge, and based on donation. And now there are more than 150 Vipassana centers around the world, which are all teaching the same thing, that is Goenka's 10-day meditation courses. Then they have 2 weeks and 3 weeks and 4 weeks courses as well. But the beginning is always a 10-day course. And it can either bring you into the meditation for the rest of your life, or it can actually put you off forever, because it is so what you call hard for some people to sit 10 days for that course. Or maybe temporarily it can put you off, and then you look for another technique or another teacher. You know, teachers of meditation are quite a lot. If you look at Jack Kornfield, for instance, famous Western meditation teacher, he's in California, in Spirit Rock, just north of San Francisco. And he was a monk for some time in Burma and Thailand. And he had written a book, The Living Buddhist Masters. It used to be called, now it's changed title, I think. But it is about 10 famous Buddhist teachers who were all teaching different kinds of things. Some would say you have to really try hard, put all your energy in. And another one might say, don't do anything, just relax, and then you'll get there. Something like that. So it was like, if you try to follow the two teachings at the same time, it will be a little bit difficult. But basically, different teachers had different things to tell. And Jack Kornfield said, well, they all had something to tell him which was worthwhile, but not always possible to practice at the same time. So, let me just see if there's anything important to tell you more. Well, this is in the texts on meditation. It is called ekayano maggo. That means this is the only way, or this is the way to overcome suffering and to reach nirvana. So this kind of practice of mindfulness, that is maybe an important thing to say, is that there are certain meditations which lead you to only tranquility. If you repeat, for instance, a mantra, or you do concentration on a particular object, and you try to exclude other objects from your mind, and then you try to focus and fix your mind on one thing, maybe you get into tranquility, maybe you get deeper into that meditation, and then after some time, you are sort of absorbed in that particular object. But Buddha said this is only a kind, and again, Krishnamurti would say that is not real peace of mind, it is just a peace of the mind. Because you've been concentrating on one part, you've been excluding other things, and it's not all inclusive. So therefore, it is a peace of the mind and not real peace of the mind. So therefore, we would say have a more holistic view and include all these things. So these four foundations of mindfulness are very good. And sometimes they overlap each other. They don't always come in the same way. And I would say that I've been talking almost half an hour without noticing it. But when I look at the clock, yes. So I would suggest that after filling our minds with so many words and ideas, that we just sit quietly for a minute or two and then start with the Q&A session. Yes. So as I mentioned earlier, you can ask anything as long as there's something to do with the topic. I see there's one question in the chat box. I haven't looked at what it is, but
sorry, Venerable, that was an announcement from Metta Center. We just we post announcements every week to let people know what's happening next week and etc. It's not really a question.
Okay, fine. May I know the background that you have there, the beautiful tree behind you? Is that an artificial background?
It's totally real, Venerable. I'm joking. I'm not lying. I'm just making a joke. Yeah. It makes me feel like I'm under a tree, which I love.
Oh, very good. Yeah.
Hello, Venerable Sinsin here.
Sinsin, there you are. Yes. Julian. Apa kabar?
Baik.
Baik.
Thank you.
Yeah, so if anyone have any questions regarding your practice or the topic or other Dharma-related topics, please pop your question into the chat. Otherwise, you can start on the reflection of what are some of the challenges you face in practicing mindfulness in your daily life. I'll pop the question into the chat, and that can also help you guys think about that. Here's your opportunity to ask whatever questions that pops in your mind for Venerable. And while we're waiting for others to pop in their question, Venerable, how about I'll start off with the question, which is, so in our daily life and our jobs, especially the brainy jobs like desk jobs, where we use our brains a lot and study a lot, how do we maintain mindfulness of the body of our feelings, mind, and mind objects while we're using the other part of the brain as well.
Well, is that not enough just to focus on your brain? You want to focus on the other things as well, body, feelings, and mind, because it says so in the sutta, or, when you are working, you say that you're using mostly your brain in these IT jobs and fast moving industrial and high-tech world things. Maybe you cannot really be aware of all the things in your body and mind because you're focusing basically on those things in your brain, but that includes your mind. But sometimes your attention might go out to different things which don't have everything to do with the present moment. Maybe you're thinking about something that happened yesterday, or you're thinking about where you're going to have your lunch today, or something like that. Could be that you are a bit distracted of your present moment attention. Now that could be an object for your awareness, that you are aware that you are what you call distracted. That is in itself also a kind of mindfulness. But I don't think you have to forcefully go to your body and feelings if it's not really necessary, unless they call for your attention,
Yes, thank you, Venerable. That was really helpful.
Mm.
So we have a question now from Benjamin. He said, thank you, Venerable, for the talk. I have been practicing meditation for some time, but one theme that I still am challenged with is my mind is full of things, thoughts, etc., which distracts my meditation practice. It's something I still struggle with in my daily meditation, and it's something present in my life, mindful of things. So the question is, any advice on how to be more mindful versus having a mind full of things in my daily meditation practice?
Mm-hmm. Well, you said you lived in Hong Kong before, and now you've moved back to Australia. I think Australia may be a little bit easier to have your mindfulness in the present moment and without too many distractions, But there's a joke, somebody from Sydney met some other person who asked him, what is the time difference between Sydney and Perth? And the guy from Sydney says, 25 years, the time difference. So, Hong Kong, I've never seen any city where people are running that much to make more money, with their phone years ago already, with their headphone. And there are other places where they do make money. They're not so much, excited about it. So, but maybe it's a kind of ingrained pattern in your mind that you have picked up from the environment, Whereas if you know that there are a lot of things which are maybe not that necessary, you could maybe check like that, is this necessary? That question you could put like kind of a mantra, do I really need this? No, chuck it out. And then, do I really need this? No, chuck it out. Then you may create some more peace and happiness, basically peacefulness in your mind. You don't need all those unnecessary thoughts, but maybe we are not aware of it. Yeah, then you become aware of it. But what you do sometimes, maybe you add more thoughts rather than, decrease the number of thoughts. So what we do is, not everybody, but maybe you are adding like judgment. If you add a judgment to your thoughts, like, oh, why do I have this particular thought? I don't want this thought. But this is a good thought. But that's a bad thought. Or how do I get rid of this thought? No, it's just, if you can maybe just name it as thinking, and come back to what you're really doing. That could help quite a lot.
Thank you, Venerable. And Benjamin, I hope that helped.
Yeah, thank you, Venerable.
Awesome. We have a question from Sophia now. She said, Venerable, how did you find the right meditation practice for you? Do you practice one or more techniques?
Okay. Well, I started off way back in 1968, I suppose. Yeah, I'm an old man, really speaking, but with TM, Transcendental Meditation of Maharishi Mahesh Yogi. That's when the Beatles also started to meditate, and that was a mantra meditation, just repeating one mantra and then getting a piece of the mind and thinking that is the real piece of mind, and you pay for it dearly. But anyway, then soon after that, I read a book. Some American gave me a book, and an Indian came to my place in Amsterdam. I was living on a houseboat in Amsterdam, and he saw the book and he said, "Oh, are you coming to India?" I said, "Yes." He said, "Well, I live close to that ashram where the author of this book, the autobiography of a yogi, the Yogananda, had written that book, but he had died already in 1954, I think. But I started practicing that particular meditation, which was based on Hinduism, more like, belief on Vishnu and Krishna and the avatars and all these kind of things. Not the avatars of the movie, but that kind of thing. It was basically drenched with Hinduism, but very interesting and also quite powerful. It was a type of Kundalini yoga, you could call it. But on the other hand, it had too much of this burden of belief in so many gods, which I came from a non-believers family, free thinkers in Holland. So that became a little bit difficult to keep on practicing that. And when I came to Sri Lanka in May 1975, soon after that, I practiced Vipassana meditation in a famous sort of place where there was an English-speaking Sri Lankan Buddhist monk who could teach very well. He could also read my mind at the distance of 100 meters. He knew what I was thinking. I got a lot of faith and confidence in what he was teaching and doing. And then I started practicing that particular meditation. I gave up the other types of meditation. I have not really mixed up the other types. I have had thoughts from time to time, let me try this once again, maybe, but it didn't work, or rather, I didn't do it.
Venerable, thank you. Do you mind sharing with us what type of meditation it is? And do you mind also explaining, your faith in the meditation? Was it partially the meditation was right for you? Or is it also partially the teacher, the fact that he's able to read your mind, that it built faith in you? That's what helped you to build faith in that meditation practice?
Okay. Well, it is Vipassana meditation, but not Goenka's kind of system, but it is basically the same thing. So when I started practicing, it was in a meditation center where actually nobody spoke to each other, only you spoke to the teacher from time to time. And when I thought, oh, I want to speak with the teacher, then a minute later, somebody knocks on the door, teacher wants to see you. And, it was, wow, yeah. Then he knew what was going on in my mind, and he knew how to relate to that and give some, advice. So it is basically mindfulness meditation or Vipassana meditation. Is the same thing, Satipatthana Bhavana. And that's it. So the fact that he convinced me as, the mind reading is not really part of Vipassana meditation, I must say. Yeah. Mind reading comes with like other types of meditation also, like Kundalini yoga also leads to capability, mind reading, reading your own previous lives and things like that. It might happen, but it's not the aim in Vipassana meditation. So it it fitted in more into my personal background from coming from a non-believing kind of humanistic family in Holland, and then not being bound by any kind of dogma of a church or a temple or something like that. So I had the freedom to choose. That is one thing, and I just sort of stumbled into this particular place. Was recommended to me by a Buddhist monk whom I met in a train while traveling in India. And I was going to get a new visa for India from Nepal. So I wanted to see a bit of Nepal and get a new visa in Kathmandu and then come back to India and go back to that teacher of the Yogananda's meditation. And then this particular Buddhist monk said, well, you don't have to go to next time when you need another visa, that is after 3 months, you don't necessarily have to go to Nepal. You could also go to Sri Lanka. I'll give you some useful addresses. And one of those addresses was that meditation center where I went. So it was also kind of serendipity, how things happen.
And Bhante, actually following that question, how do you actually know if something's right for you? Or is that something like you just have to continue exploring and you just know when you know?
I think it's the last thing, you know it when you know it. It's sort of what you call a gut feeling. It's not something that, you try to figure out with your thoughts and doubts and things like that. Just feels good, I suppose. But it could be that there are other meditations which are just as good, or but one thing is I can recommend people is not to go shopping too much with meditation courses. Do a retreat here, a retreat there, and then a course there, and a course there. It could be more confusing in a way. It's a bit like in China, sorry to say, but in China, they have what is called Confucius, then they have Buddhism, and they have, Taoism, And in the end, they have Confucianism. Confucianism. That's maybe what some people are into now. Yeah.
Yes, thank you, Bhante. We have a question/comment from Michelle. She said, Venerable, my sister Shireen Tan told me about this Zoom. My mind is always full of things. There are so many challenges in life. I have a hard time meditating because I can't focus. So any tips that you can help with, Michelle?
Well, many challenges in life is probably something that is happening for most people, and especially in a competitive society, isn't it? You know, they have always sort of try to be number one, or there are many choices also that you have to make, and yeah, challenges. So if they are real challenges, I suppose you have to deal with them as much as possible, one by one by one. You cannot really deal with them all at the same time, I guess. Then maybe, you know, like you could look whether it's possible to put some kind of order of urgency in the challenges. There are so many challenges. Then if you could, you know, put them, maybe you can put them down on a piece of paper or on a spreadsheet or something like that on your computer, and then see whether it is, which ones are really number one, number two, and then deal with them more in a numerical order of importance, you know. Because if you're always thinking about them, it is maybe just like a whirlwind in your mind and not getting any clearer. So to put some order, to put some order in your life in a way. All these things, if you keep on just thinking about it, it won't bring order. You have to maybe just put them down on paper and let go of some of them if they are not urgent. So maybe deal with them in order of urgency, and then say, now I'm gonna meditate. Well, then the other thing is, with the meditation, maybe that's another important thing, is when you are meditating, that you don't have this feeling that you have to be quiet all of a sudden. That you have the, you know, allow yourself to sort of unwind and not to have the feeling that you've got to be silent all of a sudden. So even if your mind is at that time, you could say confused or full of things, that you look at it with some kind of neutral mindfulness and not add any kind of, how do you call it, judgments, maybe to overcome some of the judgments, the likes and the dislikes.
Thank you, Venerable. Michelle, I hope that helped. Now we have a question from Eugene. He said, Venerable, I would be really interested in your perspective on the details of rebirth, like what is getting reborn and how?
Okay. Well, Eugene, okay. You know, in Buddhism, we say there is no self. That is one thing. The third of the three characteristics, which is anatta, no self. Then you could wonder, well, what is it then that gets reborn if there's no self? But, in the no self concept or the teachings on anatta, it's not that there is no stream of consciousness which is linked to each other moment to moment, just like we as a human being from the time of birth till now have been going on, changing. Physically also, the cells in the body have been changing, the thoughts in the mind have been changing, but we are not 100% different person than what we were when we were born. So at the time of death, what you call death, the body is actually going to die back to the elements, either through cremation or burial or whatever. But the mind, the consciousness, what we call the stream of consciousness, is actually continuing. So that is the thing which gets, in a way, reborn. It may be what you call looking for another suitable embryo, or not yet an embryo, maybe just a couple who are making love and having, the egg and the sperm coming together. And then number 3 is the consciousness of that person who has just died and looking for a rebirth. So that way, that is then there's a kind of a basis, physical base for this being to take root. It may be for some time that there's no such occurrence in the proper time or place, and this what is called the stream of consciousness of the being who has just died has to sort of wander around for some time, could last for quite some time. And depending on their karma, in a way, maybe, they have to wait in a good, nice place or bad place. Would you just, how do you say, excuse me for a second, there I am. So Eugene, I don't know if is that enough answer to your question, or would you like to ask something related to that?
No, thanks very much, Venerable. Yeah, I was just interested in your sort of perspective, like, on that, yeah.
But do you have your own perspective?
Yeah, I just, like, I don't know myself really what are the details. Like, I've heard different perspectives, so
yeah.
I just.
Would you like to be reborn?
Depends, I guess, where.
Yeah.
I don't know. But
I think I would like to be reborn as a cat in California.
oh, right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I can definitely still, like, one thing I kind of understand though is that thing that, there's some suffering, or a lot of suffering seems to be inherent in all life, like the Buddha taught.
That's right, yes. That's why
the
ideal would be not to be reborn, according to the Theravada teachings, that it would be the ideal highest goal, to realize nirvana in this lifetime, and then no more need to be, no greed, no hatred, no delusion, and there you are. But there are different views, as I mentioned earlier, about the Mahayana view also. Wanting to be reborn, not because you like samsara that much, but because you think that is a place where you can do more good for others.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
Yes, Bhante, thank you. And we have one more question before we wrap up, by Benjamin again. He said, Venerable Sir, you mentioned Theravada / Mahayana, touching on your point regarding Confucianism. I've never thought of whether I follow Theravadan or Mahayana Buddhism. I am just keen to learn further regarding Buddhism. Is it necessary to choose one of these schools of thoughts, Theravada or Mahayana, or can I continue to explore and be open to teachings from all Buddhism schools of thought?
Very good. I think it's possible to, possible means you need 2 or 3 lifetimes for that to explore everything in Buddhism, because there's quite a lot. So, I would say Theravada is a little bit more simple than Mahayana. It's like kindergarten in a way. But, I don't want to say that it is less good, but it's not so complicated as Mahayana. Mahayana has very much developed later on, with Nagarjuna and the Nalanda universities, to which His Holiness the Dalai Lama is always referring. There are so many teachings on different aspects of the mind and the paramitas and God knows what, else. So there is a lot. Yeah. And then the Vajrayana. In Indonesia, by the way, Yulianto, you probably know, there is an organization called Buddhayana. Buddhayana, they have, both. That was Ashin, what was his name?
Jinarakita, Ashin Jinarakita. He was the founder.
Jinarakita, yes, yeah. That's right. He is from like on the way to Bandung, that place, yeah, near the mount, the hill over which you have to go. Yeah, Ashin Jinarakita Tsukong. He was called in Chinese Tsukong.
Correct. Yes.
Yeah, I knew him quite well actually. Ya. Saya sudah pernah ke Indonesia, sudah lama dan sering.
Oh, you speak very good Indonesian, Bhante. Yes.
Yeah. So, well, it's now actually time for winding up, I suppose. So would you mind if I just chant a short blessing kind of chant in Pali language? Huh?
Yes, please do. Thank you, Bhante.
For all your peace and happiness and good health and well-being, etc., etc. Sabbitiyo vivajjantu sabbarogo vinasatu mate bhavatantarayo sukhi digayuko bhava bhavatu sabba mangala rakhantu sabba devata sabba buddhanubhavena sada sati bhavantu te bhavatu sabba mangala rakhantu sabba devata sabba dhammanubhavena sada sati bhavantu te bhavatu sabba mangala rakhantu sabba devata sabba sanghanubhavena sada sati bhavantu te Nakatya Kubhutanang Papagani Varana Parittasanubhavena Hantute Sang Upadave Devo Vasatu Kalena Sassa Sampatti Hetucha Pito Bhavatu Lokocha Raja Bhavatu Dhammiko.
Well, thank you so much, Venerable, for your talk. Thank you for guiding us. Thank you for sharing your experiences with us. And thank you, everyone, as well, for asking all the wonderful questions. I'm pretty sure those who are listening have gained so much from it. I have myself. And before we finish off, so next week we have Bhante Tejadamo speaking on the topic of an evening of Dharma with Bhante Tejadamo. So if you would like to know more about that, hopefully we'll see you next week as well. And Once again, thank you so much, Venerable. We really, really appreciate your time and your
Good.
blessings as well.
Next Thursday, we also have Ajahn Brahmali giving a special talk on dependent origination on Thursday. So
Ajahn Brahmali is a great teacher, and especially I think he's really excellent at explaining the topic of dependent origination. So I have listened to him myself, and so it's a great opportunity if anyone is able to attend that talk, that session at Metta Center at 7 o'clock, I believe. Yes,
it was 7 to 9. I'm looking forward to it.
9 Thursday. It's great.
Is the talk online as well?
Yeah, it's hybrid.
Okay, perfect.
Hybrid, but Thursday. So basically the day after Bhante Tejadama's talk.
Okay. Cool. Lot going on next week. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Yeah.
Thank you,
So,
Venerable.
Benjamin Wong, you speak Dutch, it seems, at least a few words, or
I
what?
learned a little bit, yeah. So thank you well. Venerable.
Ja, heel leuk, dankjewel. Allerbeste.
Thank you, Venerable. Sadhu, sadhu.
Terima kasih, Bhante. Terima kasih.
Terima kasih banyak.